What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Boots, Banter, and Beyond, the stories of Irreverent Warriors, the show where stories about how humor and camaraderie have changed lives for the better. I'm your host, as always, Eric Schessel. Today on the show, we've got local coordinator Dave Miller from IW Dallas. Dave, thanks so much for taking the time to come hang out with us today. How are you doing, brother?
I'm doing good, sir. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Before we get into all your Silkies Hike stuff, I want to know more. Well, it's not just me. I do want to know more, but I'm sure everybody else that really doesn't know Dave Miller, the person, we want to know more about you. So talk to us about what branch of service you were in, your MOS, and all that good stuff.
Well, I was a comms electronics technician on the Aegis cruiser USS Anzio out of Norfolk, Virginia. It seems every captain on that ship was apparently terrified of staying in Norfolk, so we were always out to sea the entire 4 years I was on that. Uh, while I was on the ship, I deployed to Kosovo and Iraq back when those were the hot spots in the news. I worked on HF radios, copiers, a few other just random electronics. But my pride and joy was actually the Hawklink, which was the primary system on the ship that communicated back and forth with the helos. It provided both audio and real-time infrared video feeds between the ship and the helicopter. Not to give away my age or anything, but I had a VCR wired into it so we could record all the night ops, and then the captain and the other senior officers could watch them the next morning after they were fully rested from their full 8 hours of sleep, on the ship. I
Gotcha.
was the, I was the only tech on the ship for the Hawklink, so when it was working, I was a hero, and everybody touted me on their shoulders. And then when it wasn't, I was a zombie because I got no sleep until it started working again. Uh, my last year on the ship, my division was actually low on manpower, so they asked if I'd be willing to work as both an electronics technician, which is what I was, and an interior communications technician, which is an IC-man. So as an IC-man, I got to help set up all the phone lines, wire all the CCTV on the ship, and then manage the entertainment for the crew. So I was writing the movie schedule and playing movies on request and all that. Um, so the double duty had me even getting less sleep than usual. So thank goodness I was young. I couldn't maintain that up tempo now.
Yeah, right. And I mean, not only that, but if you're doing two different jobs, I mean, if you're a civilian, if you were, you'd be getting paid, you get a little pay raise for doing both jobs because we're
Exactly.
not. We're just, hey, guess what? You can go do this now too. Like, oh, gee,
Yeah,
thanks.
yeah, exactly. I basically just got to say the Pledge of Allegiance twice a day.
So you were down in, you said you're down in Norfolk. When were you down in Norfolk?
I was, I did boot camp and training from, here we go, here's with my age, 95 to 97. And I was on the
Okay.
ship from 97 to 2001. I got out 11 days before September 11th happened.
Oh, snap. Okay. No,
Yeah.
because I was Air Force. I was stationed down at Langley.
Oh,
So
nice.
I was there from 99 to 2006. I was actually in Saudi, and I had gotten back 2 days before 9/11. So so
Wow.
so yeah. So you got out, and then I had just gotten back from that part of the world. So
Yeah, that was a
um,
wild time.
it was. And when you mentioned that you're down there, I was like, "Oh, I was down there too." We didn't cross paths obviously because I was overseas and whatnot, and you were just coming back and then you got out. So, but
Yeah.
did you stay in the area after that, or
Oh,
did
no, I got out of Norfolk as quick as I could. I had a really good port call down in Jacksonville, Florida. So when I got out, I said, so I'm from Nebraska, and I said if I go back to Nebraska, I'll never leave. And I had enjoyed Florida the couple times I was down there, so I said, all right, screw it. I guess we're going to Florida, and it worked out pretty well. I got a wife and a kid out of the deal.
okay. So how did you find IW then?
My wife, Marcia, and I lived in Tucson for 13 years before moving to Dallas. So, yeah, we started in Florida, eventually moved to Tucson. We moved to Dallas in about 2020. One of our favorite breweries in Tucson was 1912 Brewing. So, shout out to the Mescalero there, still one of my all time favorite stouts. We went to 1912 a lot, probably too much. And the owner, Alan, was a Marine. And he told me one day we were in there that his brother-in-law, Luis, was coordinating a hike for veterans. And it was meant to help with veteran suicide issues. And he also said that the participants wore really short shorts. So I was interested already, and the short shorts had me going, wow, now I'm real interested. So my I signed up and I talked a couple Air Force buddies in the area into joining me, and I did my first Silkies hike in October of 2019.
Nice. That was the same year. That was the same year that I got started. I did the first. I went solo for the first one, and it was the second year for the one in Connecticut down in Norwich, and 2019 was my first year too. We're in September, so
As a participant or LC?
no, as a participant, I wasn't.
Oh,
I didn't become the LC until 2021 is when I became
oh,
the LC.
okay.
Yeah, I was part of an organization that was running the Silkies hike for a few years there, and then as part of the organization, I was given the position of local coordinator, and then I decided that I could not be a part of both organizations in leadership type roles, and so I left that one to continue with IW. Was not an easy decision to do, but like
Yeah,
working two jobs, it would be very very difficult, and I wouldn't have the focus, you know.
yeah.
So all right, so your first hike was in 2019, and have you only done the Dallas hike down there,
No,
or
I've
what other hikes
done,
have you done?
man. So I did 2019 was Tucson. We
Okay,
moved here in 2020. There was a little thing going on for like a year or two there that a lot of stuff wasn't happening. So I did as soon as we got here to Dallas, I tried to figure out where the nearest one was, and I think it was 2021 I did Dallas, and then 2022 I did Fort Worth and Dallas again, I think. I can't remember how many of the two of those I went back and forth with. Um, and then I've done a handful. I've done Houston, New Orleans, Jack's Beach, did Key West back just in December a couple months ago or a
okay.
few months
How was
ago.
that?
That was a good time. It was the first night hike I had done. So no, it was a really good time. Jess did a really good job putting that together.
Nice. How many hikes are in Texas? Isn't there like 4 or 5 hikes throughout the entire state?
Um, I guess I could have sent you the other logo we've got. We've got like the 10-year anniversary with all the QR codes.
Right.
So for this year, we've got Arlington, there's San Antonio, there's Georgetown, there's Houston, there's Galveston again. Um, I swear I'm forgetting one, but I'm not sure. Yeah, there's 5 or 6 in Texas this year.
Do you get around to going to all those, like, kinda stay, like, and do all the Texas hikes, or is that just more of, like, it's all just the same kinda like is it the same people that go, or you be able to pull people from different parts of the state? Because I mean, Texas is huge.
It's a lot of you see a lot of the same people, and it's since taking over as LC, I've tried to get to as many of them as I can, so I can poach ideas and steal things from other LCs, what works. But I haven't been able to make all of them. Like I couldn't make San Antonio this past year because a friend at work was getting married on that Friday night, and there's no way I was going to try to drive from Dallas to San Antonio by that Saturday morning.
Gotcha. No, I know because I know that I think Texas is the only state that has, like, as many hikes. I mean, and it makes sense because there's the size of the
Oh
state.
yeah, yep, it's
Georgetown's
big.
a Georgetown's is the first this is the first year for that one, isn't it?
I think they've done it before. I think they've done it and then it's been off and then it's been on again and then back off. I wasn't able to make Georgetown last year. I don't think I can make it this year either, but we are really trying to make San Antonio and Houston since I missed them this past year.
Gotcha. So how did you become the LC of Dallas?
Well, my son is active duty Navy right now, and when he finished boot camp and his training in early 2023, I talked him into doing the Jack's Beach hike with me in March of 2023, right before he showed up to his ship in Mayport. So it was legit like just a few miles away from where his ship was going to be. So it would have been perfect. Um, the plan was for Marcia and I to get him from Texas to Florida, to his ship. And the ship ended up pulling his leave. He was supposed to report on Monday. The ship pulled his leave a couple days early and had to report on Friday. So completely pulled the rug out from under us doing the Silkies hike in Jack's Beach.
Lame.
Yeah, exactly. Man's always going to get you. I almost scrapped the idea because I didn't know anybody in the Jack's Beach Silky community. Marcia's family is down there, so obviously, I had a few friends and some family there. But as far as Silkies go, I had no idea. I didn't know who was down there, and I was pretty bummed that my son couldn't be there with me. But I went anyway. Um, One of the first people I saw when I showed up was Cody from Baton Rouge, which
Right.
I'd met him in Dallas in 2022, so that was a familiar face, and that was really nice.
Good.
Uh, Met and talked to Kendra from South Florida for a little bit, and then ended up spending most of the day with these three guys that I met at the opening: Derek, John, and Maurice. And you know how the hikes go. Even if you show up not knowing anybody, by the end of the day, you've got at least half a dozen new names. So it worked pretty well.
Yeah.
Nick did a really good job with the hike. I had a blast. Um, and I guess that's a really long way to say when I got back to Dallas, I was filling out the post hike survey. And, at the bottom it says, would you like to become more involved? And I was like, well, hell yeah. These hikes are great. I'd love to see how I could help. Um, so I pitched in for that. Cindy reached out a little bit later and set up a call, kind of like we're doing here, to discuss. I really didn't know what to expect from the call. I didn't know where I could help. Uh, Little did I know, Marcia was suspecting it when the call started that I'd be a lot more involved than just a little bit of help. So that's how I became the LC.
And how have you like being the LC?
Well, Arlington is my first official hike. I've just helped at every other hike I've gone to since then. So I've been kind of, I guess I've been kind of a lame duck LC for like over a year, just sitting and watching and studying. And Arlington is the first one that I actually, get to lead. But up to this point, it's been a great experience. I've learned a lot, and I enjoy helping at the other hikes as well.
Well, and that hits you with a lot of experience too, just from experiencing all these other hikes and everything, and being on site, being at those locations. That gives you a lot of knowledge and a lot of power with how you might want to make sure that your hike goes. So I mean, it helps. You say lame duck, but I mean, it might be your first year, but you've got a lot of the experience from a lot of the other Texas hikes and some of the other hikes that you've been to. So
Yeah,
so
that's
you've got a
true.
lot of knowledge.
Yep, exactly.
So how is the city or the town of Arlington in regards to how they respond to the veteran community? Like, how easy is it for you guys to set up your hike routes and all that stuff, and get all that stuff situated?
It was So Dallas hasn't had a hike since 2022, and so we really, Marsh and I are kind of bougie. So we were trying to find all the cool trivia and all the cool stops we could include in Dallas, and we were really excited to walk people through, like the Kennedy assassination, all these cool spots that we knew in downtown Dallas. And without without getting into too much detail, City of Dallas was not very welcoming, and it was very difficult to get any kind of movement in Dallas proper. And after months of trying, we just were so frustrated, and we rolled to Arlington one weekend, and we're bringing it up. We're sitting at a bar over there, one of our stops that we'll get into a little bit later, and just kind of talking it out loud. Marsha and I were discussing it, and the bartender happened to be an Army vet and was like, "Oh, that sounds like a really cool thing." And we're like, "Well, why? What's wrong with Arlington? Maybe we should try Arlington." And every place that we stopped in Arlington, we kind of put the feelers out, and every single one of them was like, absolutely, we'd love to do that. So night and day between Dallas and Arlington as far as planning and being welcoming. So it's been a really good experience with Arlington.
Nice. That's good. That's important because the having the backing of the community just makes everything so much easier because you don't have to worry about jumping through as many hoops and stuff like that. So
Exactly.
um, so we also have, so for those who don't know, when is your hike?
Our hike is going to be the first Saturday in April, April 5th. It's in Arlington, which is home of the Dallas Cowboys. the Texas Rangers, and the women's NBA team, the Dallas Wings, I believe. University of Texas has a campus there as well. So it's a pretty cool town.
Outstanding. And for those watching, if you are not registered for the hike and you're in the area, you have not registered yet, you are wrong. So get registered. There's even a little QR code. You can scan that QR code on your phone while you're watching this and it will work. Trust me, I know I've tested it out. So get out there Saturday, April 5th. So now a more serious question that I want to ask you is what does Irreverent Warriors mean to you?
Well, yeah, as your serious question, I've I've spent most of my adult life in the military and law enforcement community, and there's a certain camaraderie and headspace that you find in those types of jobs that can't really be duplicated in the civilian area, for both good and bad.
Yep.
I love the fact I can link up with other veterans at a hike that have made the same choices as me, and then I can make fun of them. Uh, but I love the fact that IW has really normalized asking someone, "Hey, how are you doing?" I mean, because I mean, I mean, when I say that, I seriously mean that because I've had so many people, that stop and just, they say, "Hey, how are you doing?" And it feels genuine because we're all there for kind of the same reason, for that camaraderie and to show off our legs if we've been squatting a lot.
Right. Yeah.
I was uh I was actually able to talk one of my best friends, Steve, another Navy guy, into joining me at the Houston hike in 2022. And anybody that was there for that one probably remembers the weather was uncooperative, to say the least. I kept telling Steve the whole day, "Hey man, they're usually not this wet and cold, I promise." And come to find out, he had a blast, regardless of the weather, or maybe because of it. And as a result, he and I ended up doing the New Orleans hike in 2023 together. So, I mean, and he kind of mentioned to me he didn't know it was something that he needed. So I'm really glad that I was able to get him involved in it. And I guess for the last thing about the impact of Irreverent Warriors and what it means to me. Um, I mentioned earlier I was unable to get my son to join me in Jack's Beach in 2023, but we made up for it in Galveston 2024. He returned from his deployment to the Red Sea about a month prior, and his ship had a really tough deployment. There was a lot of stress and an almost unbearable op tempo that they were going through. They had no downtime, no port visits. I mean, it was incredibly stressful, and his entire crew was just, they were redlining. And it was very obvious when he got back that he was not in the best headspace that he could be in. And as a dad who's, kind of, I've tiptoed into that headspace myself a few times and come back out. Um, I had a pretty good suspicion that IW would probably help him out, even if he had to walk it with his old man. And so we proposed Galveston 2024, and it worked out. He connected with some of the younger guys there pretty quickly. I was pretty happy to see. And I'm also thrilled to say that he and Steve both will be joining us in Arlington in a little while.
Nice. That's good. That's good to hear. Like that's it because it's so important to get some of these, especially some of the younger guys, um, out and about with a lot of this stuff. Because I tend to feel like, and it's same probably with our generation as well, is that we don't talk about, especially the men folk. Like we don't talk about our feelings. We don't talk about emotions. We don't talk about our struggles and our mental health and stuff like that. And so we just kind of get lost in the sauce, as it were. And
Yep.
being able to be dragged out to these hikes helps with our mental health. Like we're able to hang out with people who have been there, right? And I guess that's kind of like the whole purpose of our organization is to bring us all into one place where um we can drop those walls and we can actually just be comfortable and talk to people.
Yeah.
What's one of the biggest struggles that you've had to do with getting your hike together this year? I know you said Arlington has been super open and super welcoming, but you had to have some sort of a struggle so far this year.
Oh yeah. Um, well,
Oh, I like where this is gonna go.
well, yeah, I got a couple. I work a full-time job, and that op tempo gets pretty busy sometimes. And it seems the closer and closer we've gotten to April 5th, I've gotten the squeeze from both the work I'm paid to do and the IW work that I'm not being paid to do, but I still love doing. So the time that Marcia and I have invested in making this hike so great has definitely been substantial, but we have a really good team of folks around here that are eager to help out. So that's been awesome. Um, so basically, yeah, the time involved in doing it has been a lot, considering how busy work can be at times. My second biggest issue is fundraising is tough. I'm not one to ask for any kind of assistance, as you know, just as a general rule. Um, so asking for financial help is definitely outside my comfort zone. I've sent probably 2 or 3 dozen requests out to businesses in the area, the entire DFW area, and I've had a handful of good responses, productive responses, and then a few go pound sand responses, and then several just complete ghostings. I don't like being ghosted. So if I ask a question, I'd like an answer. So even if that answer is to tell me to go pound sand, I don't want to be just left in the lurch trying to figure out what's going on. So fundraising and trying to, I guess, find businesses that are willing to help us has been, I guess, the other struggle. But the flip side to all that is, in addition to Jeremiah Hurley, who's our Fort Worth LC and kind of our Dallas commander in chief over here. I've been sitting in his pocket for the last year or so. Um, he was very experienced with all the ins and outs, and he's got some good connections as well. So he's helped a lot. The other Texas LCs have all been great. Um, I try to make it a habit to not ask dumbass questions. But if I have asked any, they haven't made it very obvious that they felt they were dumbass questions. So that's been nice. So both of my complaints are, first world problems, right? It definitely could be a lot worse.
Oh, absolutely. And I don't think I've ever come across an LC who, if someone had asked a question because they needed it, they needed an idea, they needed they were bouncing a thought off of somebody else, and I've never heard anybody say, "Well, that was a dumb idea." The only dumb question is what is the one that's never asked,
Yep.
and that's what I tell others. It's you have to ask the questions because you never know what kind of answers you're going to get. You're going to get all the answers because our leadership community, all the local coordinators are very receptive and they all want to help because we all want each other to succeed.
Yeah.
The financial stuff is tough too. It's hard, especially if you have organizations that do donate or do sponsor, and then uh, they come in hardship, so they focus elsewhere, and they're not able to do what they had done in the past, and you may find yourself relying on that stuff, and so then you have to find other sources and everything. And it does get tough.
Yeah.
So, but hopefully you guys are all set and you guys don't have any need for anything.
No, I've got a great support system. I'm pretty sure we're going to be fine.
That's good to hear. Um, so talk about your hike. What are some of the things you got planned this year? We don't have to go into fine detail. We don't want to spoil it for everybody, but give us some juice.
All right. Well, we have put together an awesome hike to kick off the Texas 2025 Silkies season. We've got some great scenery along the way. We're working on getting some trivia for some of the stuff we're seeing. I did mention that Marcia and I are pretty bougie, so we've got some local food and drink that everybody gets to enjoy along the way. Um, one of our opening speakers was a complete surprise, but one of our teammates, Deb, was able to pin down. I'm not going to tell you who it is, but it was a pretty awesome get, and it definitely shows that Arlington is on board with what we're doing. So I'm very excited to have this speaker with us at opening. Um, our start and stop location is Division Brewing in Arlington, and Wade, the owner and head brewer there, has been extremely welcoming. and he's very eager to have a couple hundred scantily clothed veterans in his parking lot early in the morning. Uh, we have a bunch of veterans there. Um, Wade actually Wade actually kind of gave us a really nice compliment a couple recon hikes ago, where he just said that he's really excited we can be here and be at his business, and he knows that it's going to mean a lot to people and it's going to mean a lot to him. Um, and as far as like that bar that Marcia and I were sitting in back in, I think it was November, we planned on Dallas all the way up until about November of last year, and we did a hard pivot at a certain point. But this bar that we were sitting in November, it's going to have the coolest bartender that any participant may have ever met. So we've been coordinating with this place for months now, and every recon hike we drop in there and have a beer and just say hi. Even when I was doing dry January, we went in there and I drank some of like the Corona Zero or whatever the hell those things are. And one of our last recon hikes we went to there, we were walking up to the business, and some customers were sitting close to the exit, and they say, and the bartender overheard them say, "Look at those jokers out there wearing body armor and short shorts. What the hell's going on?" And this bartender hollered out, "Those are my people," and made a beeline for us. So I know everybody who's coming to Arlington is going to love Chico. So
That's awesome.
yeah, great bartender. We've got some good raffles lined up as well, and I would be lying if I didn't say that there's 2 or 3 of them that I really would like to have myself. And there's no way we could do it. Marcia and I even talked about it. I said maybe I can buy a raffle ticket with, like, the glasses and the mustache and the fake nose, and nobody'd know it's me. I was like, I can't get away with it. So there's some good raffles. I'm pretty sure people will be excited about those.
Awesome. One of the things that I picked up on was you said you guys were planning on Dallas all the way up until November and then to do a hard pivot. Like
Yes.
so you guys have basically put this Arlington hike together in only a few months.
Yes. We
Holy
had
shit.
been, yeah, we've been running full steam ahead with Dallas, and then we had a Zoom call with the city of Dallas planning people, and I was the only one that had my camera on. But it was a very tense call, and it was very obvious that they were not willing to play ball. So it was death by 1,000 paper cuts. And I brought it up at our Texas LC meeting because I mean, yeah, it wasn't like physically painful, but it was like we've sank months into this planning and it's looking like it's not going to happen. And I don't want to put more money and more energy into something if we can't make it as good as we want to make it. So yeah, we kind of weighed the good and the bad and then pivoted over to Arlington. And it was, like I said, night and day. We brought it up to businesses there and they were just very welcoming. So the decision kind of made itself. And I mean, if you meet Marcia and I at the hike, you're going to know we are pretty well organized. So we
Well,
made
no,
it
but I
happen.
mean, yeah, no, and kudos to that. Like, I mean, I know that you're, being an LC in itself is busy, especially when like you're talking about having a full time gig and get busy on top of that. For you guys to, with you and your leadership team to be able to put together a full hike in a totally new city in a few months is nothing short of extraordinary. So you guys have got to give yourself a little grace and be super proud of you guys. I'm in awe. Like, no, I'm proud of you guys for being able to pull that off. That's amazing.
Well, I won't say there hasn't been speed bumps. I mean, and we've still got a couple more things we're trying to iron out, but we're like 95% good to go with everything.
Got it. Well, again, even still, I feel it needs to be said that I'm proud of you guys for being able to knock that thing out of the park in the short amount of time that you had. Usually we have like a year, 9 months or whatever to put that together, and you're doing it in 5. So
Well, thanks, Daddy.
that's awesome. Um, one last question for you. If you were going to the bar to meet up with your bartender there, and he points down to the bar, says, "Hey, that guy's a veteran down there," and he has not been to the hike, or maybe he's heard about IW because if he's been there, your bartender's been talking to him probably about the organization. If he found out he was a veteran, what do you say to him or her to convince them to come on out to IW and experience what our organization has to offer?
Well, like I said earlier, I've been around military and law enforcement for the better part of my adult life, and I've seen some stuff, both good and bad, that I wouldn't see in any other career field. And I know to some degree about the dark place that we can go when the stuff that we see and hear doesn't reconcile with the world that we know and the world that we want to know. The further you get into that place, the more and more alienation you put on yourself. And what I've found is IW is a place where a lot of people who may or may not have been to that dark place can get together and realize they're not alone. We may all be different branches off the same tree, but everybody to the left and right of you is your brother and sister. They're all at that hike, and they're eligible to do that hike because they made the same conscious choice to step up and sacrifice for the country. That same choice that you did. Um, so yeah, they're your brothers and sisters, your extended families. Um, I've been to so many hikes where the LC had told all of us to be sure and get contact info before we leave. Um, I love that. So even if you show up and don't know anybody, you will leave with some new names. And you'll probably see those people at the next hike you do, and then the next hike after that, so on and so on. Um, I've made some really great connections through IW, and I want other people to make those same connections. And I guess the one last thing, um, if and when someone like a veteran wants to head to that dark place, um, as a result of IW, there are real connections available to them beyond that disembodied voice, at a switchboard that you called a number for. That person doesn't know you, you don't know that person, but IW, you could have someone who you've actually talked to and you've, seen face to face. If you've made that IW connection, the connection was made with the implicit understanding that the mission is to use humor and camaraderie to prevent suicide. And that's a real thing, not just a bumper sticker. I don't really get into all that when I talk to strangers because I'm pretty sure they would just tell me, sir, this is a Wendy's. But that's how I really feel about it. I try to kind of encapsulate all that into like a 10-second elevator pitch and just kind of say, hey, come hang out with other vets. You want to.
Right. We wear short shorts. What's not to like?
Yeah, exactly.
But no, like, but I could feel a passion in what you were saying, and I get it. And I think the key thing that you said there was that it's not that it's the mission. It's real. It's not that's not just like a bumper sticker. That's a real thing. Like this organization, the mission, our vision, everything we stand for, and everything we try to do in our communities is a very real thing, and we all feel that in some way, shape, or form. So that's super important. And I want to jump through a wall now. Um, so I guess that about wraps it up. I cannot wait to see photos and videos of your Silkies Hike, and I truly hope that it is as big a success as you and your leadership team have been working on it, and so it is as great as you guys want it to be.
Yep, me too.
And there you have it. We want to thank Dave for spending some time with us today. Thank you so much again for joining me. We really do appreciate it. And thank you all for listening and tuning in. Be sure to share this episode far and wide so that we can bring a little bit of humor and camaraderie to anybody who might listen. Until next time, stay irreverent, my friends.
Thanks, Eric.